let's get things straight first before even I start. Right, I am a beer channel. There you go. There's my beer, and every week I try to put up as many beer reviews as I can because I love the stuff. But I also like music, and I do watch a couple of channels, the Prog Corner and Andy Edwards, and they've been having a go at each other over the past few weeks, and over opinions of stuff and that, and they go on about my favourite bands, and I don't necessarily agree with them. I certainly don't agree with some of the stuff Andy says, but he's got a right to his opinion. So um, I looked on other videos, and there have been people ranking albums from my favourite bands. Now, anybody who have known me for a long time know that my favourite band is a Canadian band called Rush. Now I've been following. Well, I've been into them since I was about 12, and I'll tell you why I got into them. When I was at 12, when I was about 12, 13, I was into me hard rock, heavy metal stuff like that. The usual, the usual stuff you're into when you're 12 and 13, because your bedroom will have a corner of your bedroom will have a shrine to Iron Maiden, and you'll have Saxon posters up and stuff like that. The British new wave British heavy metal, I absolutely adored, absolutely adored. Then it went again. Then heavy metal was hijacked. I thought it was hijacked because what we were getting in the 80s was American hair bands doing pop metal, if you want to call it that, and peppering the UK top 10, all the time. We know the bands we're talking about. And it wasn't really my cup of tea. I tried to like it, but I needed a band which, let's face it, if you don't have never heard of Rush, you never will. And I needed a band which really I could call my own. And I was round my mates, Paul Moon, if you're watching this, round yours, and he had a copy of 2112 on his stereo, and I went in there and he was playing it because what we did, I used to go over his house on a Saturday, listen to some music, and go into Eastbourne Town Centre and go to Caroline Records. I don't know if she's still there or still alive. And we used to kind of like go through all the metal stuff, your Metallica and Anthrax stuff, which I still love, by the way, and stuff like that. But there's one period of my life where I was disillusioned with music. I needed so I got fed up with the poppy, plastic American hair metal talking about sex all the time, and it's very, very boring. I needed something with an ounce of intelligence. So I ended up going to Paul Moon's house. He had 2112 on his record player. And I thought, wow, this is heavy. This is great. I thought, this is great. Who is this? And he showed me, I'll show you, I've got it here, 2112. Um, he showed me the album. So there it is, 2112. And I thought, oh, that looks a bit, I dated that album, didn't it? I said, it's weird, isn't it? You can hear a band playing their asses off on this record, but when you see the cover, I wasn't that too taken with it because I thought myself, oh, this is just like I don't know, looks like a cheap, merciful fate type of cover, and I thought, oh. Anyway, then I looked at the back of the record and I saw these three dudes. I thought, oh, that's definitely not my cup of tea. Look at them, you know. Someone's got kind of like a handlebar moustache and they're in bloody kimonos. But what was blowing me away was the music. And I'll tell you why it's blowing me away. Because there's three of them, and it sounded like there was about six of them in the band. And the drumming was absolutely phenomenal. So I thought, wow, I'm going to have to get myself a copy of that. So next couple of weeks, just looking through the shops, we had really good second-hand record shops back then. And we used to pick up records for about £2 a piece. Now, if you how much vinyl is in bloody HMV. Anyway, I managed to pick up a copy of 2112, took it home, and I dissected it. I listened to it. I absolutely got engrossed with the story because it's a story and about someone who discovers. Well, no, I'm not going to tell you a story yet because I'm going to do a rundown of their albums, but I got engrossed with it, and I thought this is great. Went to school. I was going to school. I heard this band Rush. Have you heard this band Rush? It sound fantastic. Nobody has ever heard of them. And I thought to myself, yeah, they're my band. So I ended up picking up some others. Moving Pictures was, no, Hold Your Fire was the latest one out at the time. I picked that one up. Even though it was poppy, I thought, wow, this is totally different from 2112, but really, really good. It, it was different. It was different to what was going on at the time. The hair metal stuff, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Heavy guitars, I love heavy guitars. Who don't? Swailing vocals, we love swailing vocals. But the subject matter of, I suppose that's what rock and roll is, I suppose, but it wasn't really hitting home. So, and since then, I've absolutely, these CDs have been constantly played. And now I'm 50 years old. And I have, these are still the original CDs I bought at the time as well. Apart from a few, because I've got a couple of remasters, and I should really get the remasters because, with the added stuff on and that. But, so this is my rundown of one ranking the Rush albums, the back catalogue of Rush. So I know I'm gonna upset a few people, and people say, "What? You put that there?" But I think I've more or less been honest to myself with this ranking. So I'm sorry if I offend any fellow Rush fans out there, but these are the albums from 20 to number 1, and it's when you look at it, you think to yourself, they've toured every one of these albums, and they did majority of them are big tours as well. There's not many bands who tour on the back of 20 albums plus do about 5 or 6 live albums, which are over there. I haven't put the live albums in because, and a plethora of DVDs over there. Anyway, I'm waffling on. So in last place. Now, this is an album which is no way means bad. For me, it came out at a time of my life which I wasn't going through a very good time, to be honest. My father passed away, and it's weird. I've always thought that music is you only enjoy music if your spirit is in a good place. You really enjoy music. If you get on a down and out, and that sometimes, especially when there's a death in the family, which was kind of like out of the blue, you tend to go inside yourself and get a bit insular. So this is why this is at last place. Test for Echo. There you go. Test for Echo. Now, this was the album before Neil Peart had his tragedies, of course. He lost his daughter and wife within a space of a year or two. And I suppose he didn't have good memories for him at the time. What do I think of it? Well, it's Peter Collins produced album, and yes, it has got some good songs on. I'm not a fan of the title track, to be honest. The swirling of the music of the title track, I'm not a fan of it. The production, I'm not really a fan of. I'm talking to you as if I know what I'm talking about. Trust me, I'm not a musician, okay? I drink beer. So what do I think? What are the highlights of this album for me? Well, Resist for me is, and Resist, Totem, and The Colour of Right are great songs. The track listing is Test for Echo, Driven, which is Half the World, The Colour of Right, like I said, Time and Motion, Totem, Dog Ears, which I think is Rush's worst song in the history of Rush. Maybe that, and I Think I'm Going Bald, which was terrible. Virtually Resist, Limbo, and Carve Away the Stone. It's in my last place, and there you go. So we've got one through one. I'm 9 minutes in. Usually these ranking videos go on for about 40 minutes. Right, my next one is the comeback album after Neil Peart's tragedies, and it is Vapor Trails. Why do I not, why is this right down there? It's right down there before me because there's no guitar solos. It came out at a time when you had your Linkin Parks and that and new metal, and no one knew how to play guitar solo. And the production it feels like it was done in an outside toilet. It was very tinny, I thought, and very compressed in production. So the track listing was One Little Victory, which is most probably the best song on the album. Great drumming on that. Ceiling Unlimited, Ghost Rider, Peaceable Kingdom, The Stars Look Down, How It Is, Vapor Trails, Secret Touch, Earthshine, Sweet Miracle, Nocturne, Freeze, which is part 4 of the Fear trilogy, which is an instrumental, and Out of the Cradle. It never really hit home with me, that album, never. But they released, I can't remember what year they released this, a remix version of Vapor Trails to try and iron out some of the problems that people were picking up on. And still, it didn't really hit home for me. So that's why them are down there. Now, the next album, some people might be surprised. If you knew me and you watch this, you'd be surprised that this album's at this. But over the years, since I went to the show on the tour of this, over the years, it's fallen ranks. It's fallen down. I play it less and less and less. I think it's because of the production. The production's a bit thin on it as well. It's Roll the Bones. Roll the Bones. So, Dreamline. Great opener for an album. Bravado. Another great song. Love that song. Roll the Bones gets on my tits now. I used to like it. It's got a rap in it. Geddy Lee rapping? Nah, no thanks. Face Up, not bad. Where's My Thing? The Big Wheel. Heresy. Yeah, Heresy is not bad. Ghost of a Chance, great solo in that from Alex. Neurotica, You Bet Your Life. Yeah, I mean, it's. I just don't play it much now, to be honest. I played it to death when it first came out. Next one, Grace Under Pressure. Exit Terry Brown as producer. The Rush 4th member producer up to that point, and enter Peter Henderson, who I think did stuff with Supertramp and stuff like that. What do I think of it? Well, it's one of these albums where came out just before came out a few years before I got into them. It's very 80s, to be honest. It's got some good stuff on. It's got some stuff which I think were influenced by the Police in this. Distant Early Warning, great song. After Image, another great song. Red Sector A, great song. And The Enemy Within, I absolutely love. Then it goes to Body Electric, not too great. Kid Gloves, great guitar intro. Red Lenses, and a great solo on Between the Wheels from Alex Lifeson. What do I think of that? Yeah, I mean, is it aged? Yes, I do think that is the one album out of the 80s for me that is aged. But, that's why that's down there. The next one is another 80s album. And again, people would be surprised. If you knew me, you'd be surprised that it's this low. But this was one of the pivotal releases from them, which got me into them. We're going Hold Your Fire. And I think for me, the reason why it's down the bucket list, if you want to call it that, so much, is because I've played it so often. I've played it, when I was at school. I played this all the time. And I think you get desensitized to music. So the track listing, it opens up with Force 10. Then it goes to Time Stand Still with Amy Mann, which is a bit of a pop thing. Then the keyboards roll in with Open Secrets and again, Second Nature. Prime Mover, I think, is my favourite on this. Prime Mover, Lock and Key, and Mission are my favourite songs on this album. The Mission, apparently, it's produced by Peter Collins. Peter Collins has stated in an interview they were going to use a colliery band. an English brass colliery band for the intro. Now that would have been brilliant. Turn the Page, Tai Shan, which is pretty poor, and High Water, which is pretty forgettable. So yeah, it's 80s Rush. They did do a good tour on that. So the next one is an album which they came back, which floored me actually when I first heard it, because I didn't believe they could be this heavy in places. This album came out when the likes of Soundgarden, Nirvana, grunge was doing its business. So you could say that they were following the flock in a way. We got Counterparts. Now, Peter Collins produced this. I think Kevin Shirley, who does Joe Bonamassa and Iron Maiden, he did the engineering on this, and it's thick sounding. It's complete opposite to its predecessor in production, like Roll the Bones. This it's got some great moments, really good moments in, and I really, really like it. Like I say, I weren't expecting Rush to be heavy, but they were on this, and it's a big shame that they did not tour the UK on the back of this album. So we've got Animate, Stick It Out, Cut to the Chase, great 3 opening tracks. Nobody's Hero. It's a bit sentimental. I'm not, over the years I've never really kind of like got into it much. Between Sun and Moon, Alien Shore, Speed of Love, which is on Planet Rock Radio all the time, Double Agent, which has got a great spoken word section in, Leave That Thing Alone, great instrumental, Cold Fire, and Everyday Glory. There's some great songs on that. So that's why that's down there. So, the next one, it's a bit low, people might say. We're going to the early days now. We're going to their second album, Fly By Night. Now, people say, what? How dare you? Not that's not in your top 10. Oh, you got some shocks coming soon, believe you me. Neil Peart. The first album with Neil Peart, their second album. What do I think of Neil Peart? The big debate. Neil Peart. Is Neil Peart the greatest drummer of all time? Do I think Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time? I would say he is. I think Neil Peart is the greatest drummer of all time. People were always going about John Bonham. Okay, I'm not going to take anything away from John Bonham, because John Bonham was a fantastic drummer for Led Zeppelin. But Neil Peart had a 40-year career playing at the highest level. And Neil Peart, he influenced a hell of a lot of drummers. The argument, well, what would Neil Peart be like outside Rush? We will never know, will we? But I think he is the greatest drummer of all time. Sorry. This is the way I am. I'm a Rush fan. All Rush fans think he's the greatest drummer of all time. Anyway, on this, we've got the first Ayn Rand inspired song, Anthem. Ayn Rand is an author. I've actually read the book. It's in there somewhere. Best I Can, Beneath, Between, Behind, By Torn the Snow Dog. Now that was the first foray into progressive rock, when stuff was starting to get a little bit longer. Fly By Night, Making Memories, Rivendell, In the End. Yeah, it's down there. So then we kind of go right up to present with the next album. I really like this album, and the reason why I like this album, because it's got some great textures in the songs. Stakes and Arrows, yes. This was great. I thought this was great. There's some great stuff on this. And I've noticed that they lean towards a lot of acoustic stuff. Especially Alex. He was leaning more towards playing acoustic and electric. And it gave some of the songs a bit of texture for me. It's produced by Nick Raskielix. I hope I pronounced that right. Rick Raskielix is a Foo Fighters producer. It was a time when I think was this the album they got inducted into that terrible Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by the Foo Fighters. I think it might have been. No, it's not. Yeah, that was the last one. Anyway, the track listing: Far and Cry, Armour and Sword, Working Them Angels, fantastic stuff. Larger, Bold, Spindrift, The Main Monkey Business, The Way the Wind Blows, Hope, Faithless, Brave Its Face, Good News First, Malignant Narcissism, and We Hold On. All great songs, fantastic stuff. Now, this is the one I think is going to make people angry. Next one. Yes, Caress of Steel. Yes, the third one, the difficult album. The album what nearly finished them, to be honest. They were touring with Kiss at the time, and they recorded this in the studio. They played it to Paul Stanley from Kiss, and he didn't know what the hell it was. Why is it so low for me? I'll tell you why. It's nothing to do with the music itself. It's to do with the fact is I don't play this as much as the rest. And that is a simple case with this. Do I dislike this album? I don't really dislike it. No, I think this album was as much as important to the band as 2112 and Permanent Waves or whatever. Because without this album, they most well wouldn't have made 2112. Simple as that. And you know the ensuing tour of this album, it was absolutely the band thought they were going to get dumped by the record company, and they thought that was it. Because the record company wanted them to be like a Bad Company or, a very straightforward 70s rock band. So, there you go. So the track listing is Bastille Day, I Think I'm Going Bald, which I think is terrible. Some people love it. Lakeside Park, which I really, really like. And then we've got the Necromancer, which is really a 12-minute epic. Into the Darkness, Under the Shadow, Return of the Prince. It's an epic, but I don't play it as much. You gotta, yeah. There's gonna be people out there who hate me for doing that. Then we got the Fountain of Lamneth, which is a 20-minute epic which would have been on the B side of the LP. In the Valley, Dik Daks Narpax, No One at the Bridge, Panacea, Bacchus Plateau, and the Fountain. So yeah, if you've never heard Rush before and you want to listen to Rush, I wouldn't recommend that because it is hard listening to the people who've never heard of them before. So the next one is their last album, Clockwork Angels. This came out in 2012, I think it was. Produced by Nick Raskulinecz of Foo Fighters fame. What do I think of it? It's got some good stuff on. It's got some great rocking tunes on. Caravan, BU2B, Clockwork Angels, the title track is one of my favourites on this. The Anarchists, Carnies, Halo Effect, Seven Cities of Gold, The Wreckers, Headlong Flight, which is another great song. BU2B2, which is a little ditty between Wish Them Well and Headlong Flight. And the last song, which could have been more poignant, to be honest with you, was The Garden, which I think is one of their greatest songs ever, The Garden. And I didn't know that this would have been Neil Peart's last ever recording with them before he decided to do a couple more tours. He did a couple more tours after this, the R40 and the Clockwork Angels tour, and he decided to retire after that because he had brain cancer. And when he passed away, I think, you know what, when Neil Peart passed away, when I found out through watching Sea of Tranquility on YouTube. And when he passed away, I think there's the only ever time I've actually cried when someone famous passed away, because I wasn't expecting that. And he cried as well, Sea of Tranquility. So the next album, yes, we got more to come. 25 minutes, this is going to be an hour video. It's going to be an hour video. It's the debut, Rush. And this was the only album, not to include Neil Peart. It had John Rutsey on drums. And this was really an album which really put their kind of hand on their heart, because it showed the world who their influences were. And it was Led Zeppelin. This is a very, very Led Zeppelin-esque record. And I suppose it didn't give anybody, the record company, any idea what direction they were going to go in. So the track listing, Finding My Way, great opener, Need Some Love, Take a Friend, Here Again, What You're Doing, In the Mood, Before and After, and the song what really put them on the map, especially with a DJ in Cleveland at the time, Working Man, which they played right up to the last tour. Yeah, I do play it now and again, and like with any debut album from a big band, there's an innocence there, and yeah, it's great. It's a great moment in time. Great moment in time. Next album. Now, people are going to think, what? You put this high? Well, yes, I have, because it means a lot to me, this album. We got off to Presto. Presto, why does it mean a lot to me? I was in the wave of discovering their back catalogue when it came out, and I was so excited about what I was hearing. It came out at the time, and bought it on vinyl, bought it on cassette, and bought it on. This is the actual CD I bought back then, so it's the original release. What do I think of? It's great. It's got some of their great songs on. Great songs on. Production's a little bit thin, like Roll Your Bones, because I looked at this and Roll Your Bones as sister albums because they had the same producer, Rupert Hine, and the production is thin. There's not much bass in it, and it does feel like there's three people playing. It doesn't feel kind of like, it just feels thin. So, track listing: Show Don't Tell, Chain Lightning, The Past, which I think is one of their greatest songs of all time, War Paint, Scars, Presto, title track is fantastic, Superconductor is fantastic, Anagram, fantastic, Red Tide, Hand Over Fist, and Available Light. There's some great stuff on there. Great stuff on there. Like I say, I think it's just a production that lets it down. But what I did notice on this, you can really hear the drums, all the different parts. When I was listening to the drums on here, you can really hear all them intricate bits that Neil does so good on his drums. So that's why that is high in my list. The next one, people are going to think, what? This is that high too? Well, yes, because I absolutely love it. Power Windows. Yes, Power Windows. Now, this album is a real love and hate relationship for me, this album. And I'll tell you why. When I first heard this album, I hated it because of the synth. I mean, there was a heck of a lot of synth in this. Lots of synthesizer. And it was a shock because was the third album I bought after 2112 and Moving Pictures. And I thought to myself, what? What is this? This is crap. But as the years go by and you start to listen to the music, there is some fantastic songs on here. There's some great songs. It starts off with The Big Money, Grand Designs, Manhattan Project, Marathon, Territories, Middletown Dreams, Emotion Detector, Mystic Rhythms. It's all fantastic stuff. And after the years, I've still listened to it to this day and I think, wow, I should get the remastered version. It's great. It just is. It's just a good album. It's that album really, I put it back, that album really sums up the 80s for me. 80s Rush. Anyway, well, back end of 80s Rush, because we've got some more 80s Rush going. I'm digging myself a hole here. Right, let's go on to the next one. The next one, you're thinking, oh, you're fucking taking the piss now. This is low in your... Well, it is, because I've mentioned it before. Again, I've heard this album so many times. I'm so desensitized to it, but I do realise what a big album it was, because without this album, they wouldn't have had a career. 2112, like I mentioned earlier, back at my mate Paul Moon's house, playing it. Yes, it introduced me to the band, and it has got the story of 2112 where someone discovers a guitar, discovers music, but gets oppressed and gets told to do one. We've heard it all before, and it won't change the world and stuff like that. And I suppose that is what was going on with the band at the time. Because the record company did not want any prog. They wanted, rock by numbers from them, like a Bad Company does, or any other 70s band, They didn't want progressive metal from them. And they said, well, we are what we are. We're going to do what we want to do. And they produced this. And the side one is a long 18, 20 minute piece of prog rock. And the record company hated it. And the record company say, right, bye-bye. We'll put it out, but bye-bye. We're not going to bother you no more. But the record struck a chord with all the Rush fans in the world at the time, because they most probably were geeks. And and a bit like me, I'm a geek. And they didn't like to be oppressed. And of course, when I listened to the story behind it, and it was inspired by Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, which I have read. It's about an architect who has another architect who nicks all his ideas. Anyway, I'll do that for another video. So it resonated with people. And that's why it took off. So we got the title track 2112, which was comprised of the overture, the Temples of Syrinx, Discovery, Presentation, Oracle, the Soliloquy, Grand Finale. Then we got the side two of single songs. They kind of like put the Passage of Bangkok, which is about marijuana. The Twilight Zone, which was about the Twilight Zone. Lessons, Tears, and one of my favourite songs, Something for Nothing. The reason why Something for Nothing was one of my favourite songs, because I thought I played it quite well on the guitar back in the day. That's another story, me playing the guitar. Anyway, the next one, Farewell to Kings. Now this is getting to the point where they're getting to a pinnacle of their creativeness. I thought they were, especially when progressive rock was concerned. If you asked a couple of members of the Manic Street Preachers, they will most probably agree with me on this, that this is one of their finest albums. A Farewell to Kings, Xanadu, which is one of my favourite tracks of all time, Closer to the Heart, which I don't really, I like it. Cinderella Man for me is the weak link and Madrigal were the two weak songs in it, and Cygnus X1. For me, the real killer tunes of this album, Xanadu and Cygnus X1, which was part one of a song which they were going to do on the next album. It's fantastic. It is. I know lots of people out there most will put this at number one. Again, reason why it's slightly low for me, because I never really lived through 70s Rush. I was still too young to discover 70s Rush. At the time, it was ABBA on the radio. And the next one is Permanent Waves. This was after a time where they thought, well, we're going to do some shorter songs, more radio-friendly songs. But the last song's 9 minutes, and there's another song which is near 7.5 minutes. So they try to curb back the creativeness of doing long songs. But this is a great album. Starts off with one of the most famous, if not their most famous songs, Spirit of Radio. What do I think of it? I mean, again, it's one of them songs which I've heard so many times. I'm a little bit desensitized to it. But Free Will, absolutely love the bass line on this. Jacob's Ladder, Entre Nous, Different Strings, and Natural Science. This was, I think, was the first album ever released in the 1980s decade. So yeah, great song, great music. It is. It's great stuff. So we're in the top three now. We're in my top three favourite Rush albums. Now these albums are the albums which mean the most, and the albums actually which I still play constantly. Unbelievable, since I was 12 years old. I still play at least once a week. The power of music, unbelievable, I know. So, and these are the ones I actually got remastered because I play them so much. Third place, Signals. Now, Signals, this was the first real keyboardy album of the 80s. But my word, it's brilliant. I love it. Subdivisions. Subdivisions for me is the only song which is so heavily keyboard, but I still listen to the drumming. The drumming is phenomenal in that song. The Analog Kid, one of my favourite songs of all time. It's fantastic. I love it. Chemistry. Yes, I do need these glasses because he's a bit blurry, but I know, I know it off by heart. Chemistry, Digital Man, The Weapon, New World Man, fantastic slice of, you know, of a song which is, destined, should have been a massive hit single for him. Losing It with Ben Mink on electric violin, and Countdown, which is when I went to see, inspired by when I went to see the space shuttle launch. So yes, and I absolutely love that cover, and I have actually reviewed this album on the channel somewhere, so you can pick that up. So my top 2 Rush albums with 35 minutes in. I love this band, I do. Second place, Hemispheres. Second place. It's an album which has only got 4 songs on, but those 4 songs mean so much to me. They do. Cygnus X1 Book 2 is the first side. Now that song is about 18 minutes long, and that is the follow-up to Cygnus X1 on the Farewell to Kings. You could be forgiven that it's just a whirling, kind of like riff, the same guitar riff all the way through. You could argue that, but it's just good. It's just good. It comprises of Prelude, Apollo, bringer of wisdom, Dionysus, bringer of love, Armageddon, the battle heart and mind, Cygnus, bringer of balance, the sphere, kind of dream. I mean, this stuff here, you know what I mean? If I go back to the Farewell to Kings, I didn't give you what the first Cygnus comprised of. Have I got it here? Cygnus. Book 1, The Voyage, prologue. All it was a prologue. Yes, so that was from that one. But yes, it's brainy stuff. Hence, there's a brain on the cover. People don't realise, it's brainy stuff, this. It's stuff, brains. You need brains to understand it. When I was at school, I was probably the most uncool person in the class. I had I had long hair. I had bad acne. And girls never bother with us. But because of this, it's because of this. They'll listen to their Poisons and Kiss and stuff, but I was listening to real music here. Hemispheres. Ask me about Hemispheres. Right, the side 2, Circumstances, and the trees. The trees are listening to a prog band singing about trees. And they play the glockenspiel. But it's great stuff. And the last song was La Villa Strangiato. La Villa Strangiato, for me, is the greatest rock instrumental of all time. Nothing comes near it. You might think Eric Johnson's Thingy of Dover might be near. Queen's Brighton Rock was a good sort of instrumental, which is great. But for me, La Villa Strangiato, for me, is the greatest instrumental of all time. It is, and it shows a 3-piece band going beyond their creative powers. Going beyond. Fantastic. Love it. So, we got the number 1 at last. Number 1. It's most probably number 1 on everybody's ranked Rush album list. But it's got every right to be there because this album blew me away. It's the album what really got me into them. Moving Pictures. What can I say about it? Well, no one else has said about it. It's the album which is their Sergeant Pepper, you could call it. I don't know. Revolver. Not into the Beatles. This is their greatest album. It is. Production is fantastic. The music, the technical playing is phenomenal. If you didn't know the band, you never thought it was a three-piece. The drumming is absolutely sensational, especially in Tom Sawyer. So the track listing, Tom Sawyer, which I am a little bit desensitized with it now. I've listened to it so much. Red Barchetta, one of my favourite songs. YYZ, yes, I do need these glasses. YYZ, brilliant, brilliant instrumental. Limelight, oh, the solo on that. I love the solo on Limelight. Then the second half, we've got the Camurai, a great long proggy track, which I like. Witch Hunt, and we've got something slightly different out of all the songs. This one sounded different out of all of them. Vital Signs. But this is, if there's a Rush album, you never heard of them before, Moving Pictures is the one to get. There you go, 40 minutes in. I've ranked my Rush albums, but I'm a beer channel, remember that. So, so take it with a pinch of salt, boys and girls, because for me, they are the greatest band in the world, and a lot of people hate them. Lots of people out there hate them. You know, they hate his vocals, they hate what they sing about, but that's what music is all about, subjective. But you know, there you go. Better have a beer now. I've kind of like built up a thirst. See you in my next one. Bib bib.